All right, guys.
How's it going, everybody?
Welcome to the builders call.
Man,
Big one today, don't we, buddy?
There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot
Just left some really exciting meetings, and I'm trying to figure out what we got lined up for today.
We got some big stuff. I know everyone is, still, still just kind of thinking a lot about our loss this past week with Matt Smith, and looking forward to seeing probably what seems like a bunch of you guys in Asheville Sunday. Hopefully everyone's got those funeral details, and can't make it, you can't make it. I think there will be a virtual tie-in, Brandon. I'm pretty sure they're going to make that available, but and it's just a reminder of how awesome, first of all, Matt Smith is, to see what kind of amount of outpouring there has been about this, but also, just what kind of a culture and community we have here. So much support, so much leadership, so many people just reaching out to help and doing whatever you guys can. So just super grateful to be part of a company like this, where we have this kind of community. Brandon, 12 years ago, I don't think we would have ever, we wouldn't have imagined it being quite like this. So pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. A lot of stuff to hit. We're gonna get to you in a second, Martinez.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I told you this, Casey. I know you've had some family in town, so you've been working mostly remotely. From a production standpoint, we had the second, I can't remember what Fletch told me, the second or the third highest number of riders in a week last week, which is really exciting. So conferences are over, people are back in the saddle, everybody's controlling activity like never before, and there's some really exciting stuff that we're looking forward to sharing starting next week that we're going to do pretty much all through October. So maybe before we get too far into it and I forget, next week's builders call is going to be an hour long. So it's going to start at noon, and we're going to have a few things that we're going to talk about, someone that we're going to introduce you to that is a tremendously valuable member of the team that we just are falling in love with the more we're around him. So don't miss that for next week. It's going to start at noon. And, before we get to Jose, do you go by Joe or do you go by Jose?
Hey, Joe.
I thought you went by Joe. Yeah, Spivey was telling me. I can't wait, by the way. He heard you at conference, and he came back and he said, hey, there's a guy that gave a speech that you guys need to hear and have on a call. So, Joe, we're really excited to get you on here in just a minute to kind of talk about some of the results that you're getting too.
In fact, we may not interview you. We may just let you kind of re-give your speech. So get prepared for that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the best way to do this.
I know. Hey, thank you. But having Joe on is just making us think about how crazy it is right now out there in the industry and some of the things that's going on. A lot of times, Casey, you and I will give a state of the union. We wanted to give a few minutes state of the whatever the opposite of the union is. Everybody outside from the union, right? We want a state of everybody else. And it's we've seen some crazy stuff over the past 30 to 45 days. This rollout of Quality Term has really just kind of bombarded us with people from all over. Not one competitor, I would say all of the competitors. And it's making us realize just how special some of these rollouts and some of these announcements are. We're looking forward to October, maybe November, where we've got a handful of other ones that we think are going to just continue to blow up. And it also reminded me that there was a great PR piece that came out from Joe's team yesterday. And just wanted to kind of throw a challenge out to everybody, Casey, that, take these PR pieces. This was in particular about the platform for Quality Term, the product itself, how it's underwritten, that sort of thing. we want everybody seeing this stuff. So we're going to make it to where you can share it on social, get it to everybody out there that needs to see it. Because we don't want to be sitting on any good news. And there's a lot of things going on in the organization that we do want to share. So I don't know, man, Casey, maybe we can just start by give us a state of everybody else's union. What seems to be happening out there?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to hit that, Brandon, because there is a lot of, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, but there is a lot of, I don't even know the right word, Brandon, to say, like, there's just a lot of people kind of waking up to this idea that it is about net profit and about time. The industry, in a way, there's been a couple competitors that the only way they maybe felt like they could compete was to kind of make this high contract, high commission, play. And I think that there's so many people starting to wake up to the idea that high contract does not mean high net profit, and it certainly doesn't mean that I'm going to save a bunch of time. And so, then this is a big reason too why we want to kick off next week starting at noon and introduce you to one of our key people behind the scenes that's getting ready to help us centralize a recruiting process for the company. So the same way we generate 10,000, 11, 12, 15,000 leads a week to our clients, we're getting ready to put the full muscle of Quility and Symmetry behind a recruiting lead system to try to automate and help you guys as much as possible with recruiting. That being said, in the meantime, while we're working on this behind the scenes with the advisory board, there's still a lot of things you guys can be doing, and you'll always be doing with your own recruiting efforts. And so next week it's time to really capitalize, and it's time to get our messaging down. It's time to get kind of our value propositions very clearly in sight. We have some really good assets coming out. Kind of got out of the studio last week and wrapped those up. So they're in editing right now. So you guys are getting ready to have some really good recruiting tools also. We got the PR stuff, Brandon, that you just mentioned, which we have a top global PR firm now for our company that's taking these press releases and getting them into, just the one that went out yesterday was in front of probably almost 2 million people as far from a viewership standpoint. And that's without you guys sharing it on your social platform. So it's just crazy time right now. So, I mean, Brandon, if I were you guys, I would be focusing on recruiting, and I'd be focusing on what is my messaging. And I think, it's really about, how do you approach a lot of this stuff going on right now? And you guys probably have people, managers around you, and maybe even yourselves that are getting a lot of calls from competitors. These guys are coming over in 120s, 130s, all kinds of contracts, and they're spending $10,000, $15,000 a month in leads only to make a couple of $1,000s in net profit. I mean, it's quite a racket when you really kind of see what's going on out there in the industry in these high comp models. They're kind of scraping a lot of agents from these companies, these big kind of older companies, the Bankers Lives and that kind of thing. And these agents are coming in, and we're not denying that there's a lot of volume that is being sold, a lot of production being sold, but what is the actual net result to the agent, not the company? When we talk about the importance of looking at results, we're not talking about the results that the company is getting. That's a part of it. We're talking about what results are the agents getting. And so if I'm talking to someone from a competitor and they're disgruntled, like a lot of them are right now, because they're spending way too much time and money to make their money. I love Brian Delaney's phrase, how much is that money costing you? It's that kind of terminology, that kind of angle that you guys need to be thinking about. And how I would be doing it is I love asking the right questions. Those questions would be starting with things like, if I could show you, that's how I would start the question. If I could show you, and I would finish it with, would you be opposed to? Because people love to say no. right? And so I like forming questions in a way that allows people to say no, but no actually means yes. So if I'm talking to a client, if I could show you a way to get the same amount of, with the same amount of premium you're paying right now, Brandon, but get potentially double the death benefit, is that something you'd be opposed to looking at? No. Well, no means yes for me in that case, right? Same thing with recruiting. So Jose or Joe, you said you go by Joe. I can't remember what you just said. Joe? Yeah. Joe, if I could show you a way, if I'm talking to you and you're a potential recruit from another company, if I could show you a way to make the same amount of money or more in a lot less time, would you be opposed to dusting off the calculator with me for 10 minutes and let me show you some old school, middle school math on this and how this works? Like that kind of approach is kind of what I would be, if I'm already engaging with someone. Would you be opposed? If I could show you, would you be opposed? That kind of line of questioning. I also think you guys hitting people right now, hitting your social media, hitting people with results. What we're seeing is, again, this is the company was founded on time and money. That's our value proposition. We want to show people how to make as much amount of money in as little amount of time as possible. Okay, so that $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 of monthly production, net place production that you're having to do by yourself with your own pen, working 60, 70 hours a week, only to net out 6,000 or 8 or 10, whatever the amount of net profit is. What if we could show you a way to do that in half the time with in way less energy and headache, by the way? What would you do with the rest of your time? Because if you're always working on your now income, you're never going to have future income. You're never going to actually have business ownership type income. And so we got to show you a way to work quicker, work smarter, get that net profit in 20 to 25, 30 hours a week max, so that we can show you with the rest of your time actually how to build a business. That's the kind of value proposition we need to be leading with here if you aren't already. But the results you guys are getting out there. So when you guys are going out and you're spending $600-800 a week, let's say, on leads, so you're spending $2,500 a month compared to everyone else right now in the industry, or in some of our competitors spending $10,000 and $12,000 a month. If we could show you how our agents spend a couple thousand, 2,500 a month to get the same net profit, that's where we need to be leaning into. So the results that you guys are getting, I think, Brandon, is what I would be posting out there. If you are a $20,000 to $15,000, $20,000 a month net place producer, put those results out there. How much you investing in leads, to get that net profit? How much you investing in time? So I'd be saying
value per hour.
Yeah.
It's
value per hour. What's your dollar per hour? So that's
what do you, I love that, Casey, because it's like, what did you grow up always hearing? What do we always grow up about hearing? Or hear growing up is like, what is your hourly rate? What is your value per hour? And for the longest time, we have done a great job, I think, of talking about time and money. I think some people are just now starting to understand what that means, because when you can make more net revenue in half the time, that's really, really the thing that everyone should be talking about and selling, and having upward mobility and having a recruiting system, all the products, all the other benefits that you guys know that we have. But it's getting people to understand that. What is your hourly rate, Casey? Your hourly rate as a plumber's assistant was about $6 an hour. Your hourly rate now, it's a little different than that, obviously. But your hourly rate, our top agents' hourly rates are in the, could be over $1,000 an hour. Right. For some of our biggest builders. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is how many people that are out there that are maybe there's production coming in, but if you're a little bit of a smaller manager and you've got somebody out there that's doing twice the amount of premium that you are, but you're actually making twice the amount of money net revenue that they are, like
twice per hour, you double them up.
That's what you need.
Again, the key is you're not having to spend 50, 60, 70 hours a week to get the right amount of net profit. Because if that's the amount of energy and time you're spending, A, probably not going to be a great family life.
That's right.
B, when are you ever going to have time to build a business? If you're spending all your time on your now money just to pay your lead bills, when are you ever going to build a business? Right. And so those are the focal points. Keep leaning into that stuff.
Yeah, it's money, it's mental energy. It's like, okay, maybe you do have time to be with your family. Who are you when you're with your family? Who are you when you're doing the things that you really enjoy doing, or that, most people enter the insurance business so that they could have more time to do the things that they're really passionate about doing. Maybe that's being with family or being with other people. Maybe it's community work. Maybe it's any number of things, hobbies. Who are you in those moments? Because you're squeezing in just a little bit of time left over for arguably the most important things in your life.
Guys, we've had, I don't know, probably 1,500 contracts or more in the last month and a half from competitors. Absolutely, just extremely upset and disgruntled by the experience they're having right now in the industry. This industry is way too good for that. This company has the solution for them, and you guys need to be ready for this. And that's why I think, our kind of thought around this specific builders call is that it's not long enough right now. We've got a lot of work to do. Everyone's got to kind of sharpen the skills. We've got to do a lot of work behind the scenes. And so starting next week, let's pull together for an hour on these calls starting at noon, because there's a lot of stuff to go over. On the next call, we did want to hit a couple things on ears, just a couple other things we're really excited about on the national call. So get ready for that. And just kind of wanted to continue to remind everyone to look at their calendars. We're in the middle of double production for ears right now in September. We are in the getting ready to be on the verge of what I feel like is going to be a massive record-breaking season for our company, where we're probably going to be breaking records once or twice, if not more than that, every single month for a very, I could potentially see that for the next year or so, if not more than that. And October is a 5-week turn-in also. So we have an opportunity to break a monthly record in October. So you guys need to be kind of, as leaders right now, intentionally getting with your teams and rallying around that 5-week turn-in. And at this point, we almost don't even need to say that. We have such a good group of leaders that you guys are 10 steps ahead of us most of the time. So, let's get with Joe. Let's hear what you got, man. We tried to say all we needed to say in 15 minutes, but Spivey, you want to give us a little?
Yeah, man. I think it's good, and it just led into, I came back from the Cook Altitude Conference and just was fired up. I mean, I immediately grabbed Brandon and took him for a walk and said, man, Joe's on it. I heard Joe get up and talk about the principles that Casey talks about week in, week out, about the activities and making sure you're having 20 conversations. Joe got on stage and said that he understood, he listened, and he doubled down. And he had, 50? Was it 50, Joe? Agents at the Altitude Conference?
Yeah, we had about 53 registered there.
Nice.
And just what his business has done and how it exploded recently. So I wanted him to come on and talk a little bit about what he did and his activity and what massive action really looks like, because he's a living, breathing example of somebody that's dedicated, committed. He's listening and he's putting things into action and he's changing lives. So glad to have you on, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it just really, we've been focused on building and really that passive income. I love, Casey's been hitting on it a lot this year, and it really made me kind of reflect on our organization, right? What do we help an agent do right here at Symmetry? And we've kind of changed that talk of coming in here and being successful to what we're great at is getting a new agent to come in here and create a passive income in a short amount of time, right? And just from my personal experience, right, I started in 2018. I went out there and wrote a ton of production. 2019 was a great year. It was my first full year. And I think I wrote like 415,000 in production. But 2020 rolled around, right? And I started at zero again, right? And I have to do it on my own to write that kind of premium and make that kind of income. And it just really made me think about what I want in my organization and how do I want to earn my income, right? Even though I was building probably what a lot of average agents do, right? We'll bring on a couple agents a month. And just knowing our numbers, it's not sustainable, right? You're not growing a business at that point. You're just staying, stable with bringing in under 10 agents a month, right? It's just the numbers and you can't beat that. So at conference, Chris had me kind of go over the metrics of what we do for recruiting, right? What we talk about at Symmetry all the time, right? It's filling those two boxes, right? 20 contracts a month and 20K in production as an agent. And, I've been here 3.5 years. I don't want to wait again. So I just loved, Danny Young was part of our altitude conference, and they really hit on warm market, right? And how important that is of your business. And then Chris Cook gets up on stage and hits on cold market and recruiting. And right before I hop on stage, right, I'm just thinking, what the reason we're growing at the rate we are is because we've all doubled down on both of those, right? And inside of our organization, we're committed to both. And it's fun to say that, since January till now, we've been able to add, my brother, my sister's part of our organization, cousins, uncles, best friends on the warm market side. And, on the cold market side, we have, a Jeffrey Miller that just became an agency owner inside of our organization. Brian Howe, that's a key leader, right? In less than, I think it's like 6 months, coming in here, getting to key leader and knocking on the door of agency owner. And just super impressive to see the cold market side, right? And the warm market side. Mm-hmm. And knowing those numbers, we took a step back in February and January, really. And my sister's a huge part of it. So she ran our office really for about a year now, and has now become an agent because she's like, I want those results. Right. And so we really looked at the numbers and said, what are the catalysts of growth, right? If we're using ZipRecruiter, what's a great way to look at it, right? So we kind of broke it down, and with 50 job ads, right, you should be able to generate a good 15 interviews a week, right? Those were the numbers we understood. Mm-hmm. And then if you're sitting with 10 interviews, or every 10 interviews that you sit with, you should generate 1.5 contracts. Right. So when I truly understood those numbers in our organization, I had the privilege of having a Jeffrey Miller, a Brian Howe in our organization, and everyone said, hey, you know what, that makes sense. Let's all do it together. Right. So we were running 150 job ads, right? We were running over 20 interviews per person a week, generating an average of 2 to 3 contracts, right, coming in a week. Right. And we kind of reflect on that. And I love talking about these numbers, right? Because what we know, and Casey, I've heard you say this so many times, right? If you have 10 contracts coming back a month, right, you're going to sustain your business. If you have 15 coming back a month, you're going to start growing, right? So if you have 20 a month, right, the 2020, you're going to explode your organization. And when you're able to do that with your team together, right, I'm like, I want 40 or 50 contracts back a month, right? Like, yep. I want to see massive explosion, because it doesn't take a lot if it's broken up into your team. Right. That's what I truly learned. And so just really fun numbers to go through, right? In January, as an organization, we hired 6 recruits. In February, we hired 9. In March, we got 12, right? We had conference, everyone really bought in and understood the system. We went over the matrix, right? April, we had 37 contracts come back for the month, 27 in May, 36 in June, 33 in July, and 31 in August, right? We just exploded as an organization, and it's been a fun ride, right? What does that look like in premium? Because I love talking to that, especially as we're interviewing people now, right? It just puts us in a huge stance. It's like when you have 15 appointments, right, throughout the week, and you're running with your appointment, you're just in a way better stance, right, inside the appointment. So same thing for an interview, right? I'm like, hey, inside of our organization, this is what we're doing, right? We went from 34,000 in premium a month in January to 178 by June, right? I mean, we just massively exploded because of all those contracts. It's just the coolest thing to see as we grow all together, right? And then the big number was bringing all these people, right? How do you get them to convert to writers, right? Because that's always our challenge, right? So we went from one writer or a new writer, right? So new writers from January to April, one writer, we would add one writer a month, right? And then we were finally, after 2 months of the explosion that we had, we started seeing 2 in May, 4 new writers in June, 10 new writers in July, and 8 new writers in this past August, which is just insane growth for the people that, you know, we have coming in, because we're converting at that rate. We're at like a 30%, right? Anywhere from 25 to 30% of people coming in are becoming new writers in our organization, which is huge. And we've been able to build it right from January, 5 unique writers. It was me, Brian, Jeff, and I think like 2 other writers, to last month we finished with 22 unique writers in our organization. So just been able to see a huge, massive growth. You know, because of that, I was AO for like 3 weeks. So that was a fun ride.
That's great, man.
Fighting to get it for 2 or 3 years to living it for about 3 weeks. It's
so
just been a
awesome.
really fun ride. And what I always love to hit on, right, is you're not going to do it by yourself. Like even the 20 contracts, right? The most contracts I've ever personally had was 12, right? And I'm going to unveil inside of our organization, we have Mr. Brian Howe and Jeff Miller, who are always going head to head. So I'm going to take it away from Brian Howe because he got 13 contracts back personally in August, but Mr. Jeffrey Miller had 16 in June personally on his own, which is super cool, right? And as an organization, you know, we're hitting the 30, almost 40 contracts a month. And I'm just excited because coming out of conference, everyone's really just looking at warm market, right? Facebook recruiting. I mean, I think our organization probably does around 8 Facebook recruits a month coming out of there just from posting, you know, what we're doing, the success we're finding. So I love that y'all hit on that because it's so true. I've had 2 this week. I got 2 contracts coming back this week just off of Facebook on warm market, that from people that have worked with me before in prior companies. So super exciting to see all this.
Love that, dude. Kudos to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the activity you controlled, the results came later, right? So you're not focused on the end result. You're focused on what you can do in the moment, what you can do that day, that week, the activities that yield the success. Some questions that I'm getting coming through on the chat would be, you know, was there something from a technique standpoint that you changed when it came to changing someone from just a recruit to a writer, because that started to snowball for you as you were going through those numbers? Is there anything specific that you could point to that you started doing more of or maybe less of?
You know, really just tightening up our recruiting verbiage, right? As we have agents come in here, before I used to have them kind of sit in licensing for a couple months or a couple weeks longer than they should have. I really went to explaining the numbers that, you know, the companies that we use to get through licensing give us, right? Anyone going past 12 days, you know, it's going to have a 48% chance of passing the test on the first time. If we keep you under that 12-day mark, you know, you're going to have a 78% chance of passing. Do you want to pass on your first try? And it's like, yes. All right, so let's go ahead and get you contracted today, get you into licensing, and let's go ahead and schedule your test, you know, on the 10th day or 11th day. And really, it's amazing just asking those questions, how people just do it.
Yeah. So they turned from licensing into an actual contracted recruit, which is a big part of the solution. But changing from a recruit to an actual writer, where you just started kind of growing your writer count, was it simply because you just started growing your recruit count?
Yeah, I mean, just falling in love with the numbers, right? We know, you know, as we get 10 recruits, you know, 1 or 2 are going to write. You know, I fell in love with that number. I mean, I think in July and early August, I probably had about 26 people come out of licensing, you know, with their license ready to go. And, you know, 10 writers came out of that. Anything that helps them really is just putting the checklist and everything we have in front of them, right? With Quality coming in and having an easier step to go through. I would say we always push through that. And then we went to weekly huddles as well, right? Of what we can do to help you write business and submitting GMRs. right?
Yep.
I would say that's huge, even as a new agent.
Getting them on leads quicker.
Yep.
Yeah, this week alone, we've submitted 8 GMRs for new agents coming in.
Nice.
And right, it's the 4 keys to success, right? You got to have resources to
Gotta have
talk.
resources.
Yep.
And I love putting them against the wall in a good way, right? Because now they have to invest because of the GMR weekly. And hey, they got to start making dials to convert that investment into profit, right? And that was a huge catalyst. I would say probably that's the biggest thing is getting a new agent to, practice on whatever leads they're going to come in at, and then definitely submitting the GMR, even if it's on bonus leads, to get them to commit to their success.
Love
Yeah,
it.
it's such a good one, Casey. We used to talk about before you can look at unique writers, you need to be looking at unique lead takers.
Yep.
And if you really want to grow, it goes unique lead takers to unique writers to unique builders or unique recruiters. And knowing those numbers every step of the way within your organization is really how you kind of get the outcome that you're looking for. You drive the activities that yield the results, and you don't get I guess disappointed, Casey, or upset when it doesn't happen quickly enough. I think that's a natural human tendency is, I should be better at this, or this should be easier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of thinking, I'm not there yet. What are some activities or some steps along the way that I can do to get better? Because we have conference calls full of people that are getting good results. We don't have conference calls full of people that are not getting any results. And so when you're looking at people like Joe, and you're like, oh man, he's getting great results. He's better than I am. You don't know what Joe's been through. You don't know what kind of learning curve you went through. You don't know what kind of learning curve I went through, or that Casey went through, or that any of us kind of went through to get to where we are. The difference is, in case you've said this for 20 years, the difference is we didn't quit. We chose to get better, and we chose to get one step at a time every day, focusing on the things that I have to do to become a better producer.
Love it.
A better leader.
Yep. And you don't rush it. We're saying it can be faster. We're saying it can be fast. I mean, Joe's a perfect example of, you've moved very fast this year, right? But, it's like, it's not always going to be overnight. And you've got to kind of come in with the right expectation. You got to be hopeful and optimistic in the outcome, but you can't be so unreasonable. It would be like a doctor or someone that wants to be a doctor, because here you can make doctor level income, but times 10, the opportunity is there. The opportunity to make doctor type of income is there, in your first year. But it would be like people come in to want to be a doctor, and they kind of quit in their first couple months of college or, going to school for it. It's like
happening fast enough.
There's a process here. You can't make doctor level income right off the bat. You got to kind of put some time in, but I know we're in the national call, but I think that what you're doing, Joe, first and foremost, is you concentrated on the top of the funnel. What are my actual recruiting numbers? This is a numbers game. And just like selling clients, if you go out of the gate and you only, set 4 or 5 appointments a week, 8 appointments a week, you're probably going to struggle. Same thing with recruiting. You've got to find enough people to make things happen. And so that's what you're doing. And you should be growing your amount of recruiting every single month, like you're talking about. And the fact that you're focusing on that first is it's like someone coming to you wanting them to, wanting Brandon, you to diagnose why they're not successful in the field. The first place you start is not what you're saying in the home or what product are you trying to sell. The first place you start is how many appointments.
How many appointments you got?
People do the same thing with recruiting, Joe. They want to know what are you doing when you get them on board? First thing I want to look at is how many people are you getting on board? Let's not it'd be the equivalent of you like having a scratch on your elbow. And then you also have like from the knee down missing on your right leg. And you want to understand how to fix the scratch. No, we got to fix the triage, the big problem first. That's the recruiting numbers, or that's the amount of appointments you're setting. Once you fix that, then we can clean it up a little bit, clean up all these other little bumps and scrapes along the way. But man,
when we have people joining us on the building side, right, because we've really instilled that culture of we make income 2 different ways, right? It's your production and your building. And I love to use just our organization, right, as an example, because like you said, I've been doing this for 2 years, right? 2 years was just getting dirty, getting all messed up and doing all the wrong things and wrong actions and focusing on, hiring 6 people and trying to get 6 people to write. It just wasn't going to happen. And we really focused in January, let's just focus on the process, right? The process is, and there's a PowerPoint from Jacob Pogue that really puts it all in perspective, right? The $1,000 investment a month. And, you start seeing it back on month 4 and 5, and it's just getting through that 4 or 5 month period, right? So when I have a new agent talk about, hey, I want to start building because I want passive income, I always love to use just my organization's example, right? We went from in January of $800 in passive income from what we wrote, right? To by June and July, I was at a 10 to 12,000 passive income from our organization, which is amazing results, right? But it took a lot of investment, and we didn't see I didn't go green on my investment part for building until May and June. Right, because it was 1,000 to 1,500. My sister was a huge part of it, so we paid her a payroll, right, to help us. Y'all hit on it all the time. Hire someone to do all the pre-screening, because there's just no way you're going to produce, build at this level without help, right? And after investing for a good 5 months is when I started seeing the $5,000 passive income, the $8,000 passive income, to now, we will produce anywhere from 10 to 12, depending on the month, which is insane, right?
Keep it rolling, man. Before you know it, you're going
to run.
Before you know it, you're going to wake up and that's 40,000 a month. Then you wake up and it's 60,000 a month, and it's 80,000 a month. Yep.
I can't wait.
Pretty awesome. Good
Thanks
work,
for sharing
man.
with us, Joe.
Sharing, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you
was
for
awesome,
having me
man.
on.
Appreciate you. That was great. And welcome to the national call, everybody. If you missed the builders call, you missed some good ones. I think Joe gave you a little taste there at the end of some of the stuff that you can be learning. Join us next week. Is actually going to be a little earlier. We normally do these at noon or at 12:30. Next week, we're going to start doing these at noon, just for next week for now. But we've got some exciting announcements regarding recruiting and some introductions that we want to do next week. So we want a little bit more time.